What if the moment that truly ends a relationship is not the screaming, the insults, or even betrayal, but the quiet decision to stop responding at all? What if the most damaging words spoken in love are no words, no explanations, no arguments, and no emotional presence? Just silence that feels heavier than any conflict. Because when communication disappears, the human nervous system does not interpret it as peace, but as danger, abandonment, and loss of connection. In the first 15 seconds of silence, your brain begins scanning for meaning, and when it cannot find answers, it creates stories that slowly erode trust, safety, and self-worth. This is why silence is never neutral in intimate relationships, even when it is disguised as calm, space, or maturity. There is a psychological difference between the silent treatment and stonewalling that most people never learn. And misunderstanding this difference is why many relationships collapse without ever understanding what actually went wrong. The silent treatment is an intentional withdrawal of communication, used as a form of punishment, control, or emotional leverage. It is designed to make the other person feel invisible, anxious, and desperate for reconnection. Silence in this context is not about regulation, but about power, because the goal is not peace, but compliance. When someone uses the silent treatment, they are aware that their absence causes distress, and that distress is the mechanism through which control is achieved. Stonewalling, on the other hand, often begins not as manipulation, but as emotional shutdown caused by overwhelm. It occurs when the nervous system becomes flooded, defensive, and incapable of processing information safely. The person who stonewalls is not trying to punish you, but is trying to survive an internal state that feels unbearable. From the outside, these two behaviors look identical, because both involve silence, emotional withdrawal, and lack of responsiveness. From the inside, they are driven by completely different psychological processes. The danger is that when these two patterns are confused, people respond in ways that escalate damage instead of restoring connection. If you respond to stonewalling as if it were punishment, you push someone further into shutdown. If you respond to the silent treatment as if it were overwhelm, you reward manipulation. This misunderstanding creates cycles where both partners feel misunderstood, unsafe, and increasingly alone. The nervous system does not care about intent because it only responds to experience. Being ignored activates the same brain regions as physical pain, which is why silence can feel unbearable, even when no words are exchanged. Your body interprets emotional abandonment as a threat to survival because humans are wired for connection. That is why silence triggers anxiety, rumination, and emotional hypervigilance. You replay conversations, search for mistakes, and shrink yourself in hopes of restoring contact. Over time, this internal chaos becomes normalized, and you begin associating love with uncertainty. That association slowly teaches your nervous system that intimacy is unsafe. As silence becomes a recurring pattern, the relationship stops feeling like a partnership and starts feeling like a psychological minefield. You begin monitoring tone, timing, and behavior to avoid triggering withdrawal. This hypervigilance is not love, but survival. In relationships where the silent treatment is present, communication becomes transactional rather than emotional. Affection is given or withheld, based on obedience rather than connection. The silent partner holds power by controlling access to reassurance, clarity, and emotional safety. This dynamic slowly trains the other person to abandon their needs in order to preserve proximity. Over time, self-expression feels dangerous because it risks disconnection. The person on the receiving end begins apologizing even when they do, not understand what they did wrong. This erosion of self-trust is one of the most damaging consequences of prolonged emotional silence. Stonewalling, however, often emerges in relationships with high emotional intensity and unresolved conflict. The stonewalling partner may feel attacked, overwhelmed, or incapable of meeting expectations. Their nervous system enters a state of shutdown, where language, empathy, and processing temporarily go offline. This is not a conscious choice, but a physiological response driven by perceived threat. The heart rate increases, muscles tense, and the brain shifts into defensive mode. In this state, continued engagement feels impossible, not because of lack of care, but because of emotional overload. The tragedy is that the partner experiencing stonewalling often feels rejected rather than recognizing the signs of nervous system collapse. They pursue harder, raise their voice, or demand answers, which increases the sense of threat. This creates a chase-withdraw cycle where both partners feel unseen. The more one pursues connection, the more the other retreats into silence. Neither person feels safe, even though both want closeness. The difference lies in whether silence is being used to regulate or to control. Stonewalling can be repaired with safety, time, and skillful communication. The silent treatment cannot be healed without accountability and willingness to change power dynamics. One comes from fear, the other comes from dominance. One is temporary when addressed correctly, the other becomes chronic when tolerated. If silence ends when calm returns, it is likely stonewalling. If silence ends only when one person gives in, it is likely the silent treatment. Your body often knows the difference before your mind does. Stonewalling feels cold but distant, while the silent treatment feels sharp, personal, and punishing. One creates sadness, the other creates anxiety. The moment relationships end is rarely dramatic because emotional erosion happens quietly over time. Each unanswered message, each withheld response, and each unresolved silence becomes a small fracture in trust. Eventually, connection collapses under the weight of accumulated uncertainty. Healing begins with naming the pattern accurately. You cannot fix what you misunderstand. If stonewalling is present, the solution lies in slowing conversations, reducing emotional intensity, and learning nervous system regulation. This means taking breaks that are communicated clearly and revisited intentionally. Silence must be framed as temporary and protective, not indefinite or punitive. Reconnection must be guaranteed, not implied. If the silent treatment is present, the solution lies in boundaries, not empathy alone. You cannot regulate someone out of manipulation. Silence used as control must be confronted, because tolerating it reinforces the behavior. Healthy relationships do not require emotional self-erasure to maintain peace. Love does not ask you to abandon your voice to earn presence. When silence becomes a weapon, emotional safety disappears. Awareness is the moment power shifts back to clarity. When you understand the psychological difference, you stop blaming yourself for the damage silence causes. You stop chasing explanations from people who withhold them intentionally. You stop personalizing shutdown that is not about you. And most importantly, you stop mistaking emotional absence for maturity. Connection is not measured by how well you tolerate silence, but by how safely you can speak and be heard. When silence becomes the loudest voice in a relationship, it is telling you everything you need to know. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful or eye-opening, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more practical psychology insights, self-awareness tools, and mind-sharpening advice. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.